Are we live? Looks like we are live. Excellent. Okay. Hello, everyone. We're doing something a little bit early today. We are going to be working on some games design. The plan is we will do this for a bit. Then take roughly hour and a half, half an hour maybe, if I'm feeling up to it, break. And then we'll do some video games. But yes, for now, we're just doing a short little thing. Get my feet back into the stream thing. So do some games design. I've added a new channel redemption called Change. If you want to change what I'm working on between my different projects, you can use that redemption in order to change the topic. Okay. All of the topics are going to be largely a lot of looking up documents right now. We have 3 adventures that I'm currently in the middle of writing up. 2 of the adventures are in the plan stage. One of the adventures is a bit more thoroughly played, so I'm actually properly writing it up. It's taking a bit of time because I find it difficult to write these introduction sections. It's like, I know what I want to do, but how do you write it for other people? So yeah, we've got 2 adventures in the planning. So to describe the things that you can change between at the moment, we have adventures. We have Ashwood Manor, which is the tightening up, the writing up to fit the making it look better, making it look a bit more prim, proper an adventure. We have adventure number 3, Coven of Owls, which is in the plan stage at the moment. It's mostly going to be either writing SCP style documents or writing up the room descriptions. And then there's Horror in the Mists, which is a bit more turning concept into plan. The other thing we've got is our Mystic playtest. We currently have the Order of the Azure subclass that we've been writing up. So the option there is we do some writing of the different psionic powers. So that's it. Those are the 4 things. There's also I'm talking about it. There's also world building we can do. We can just spend some time doing some world building. So feel free to use the change channel point command to just move what we're doing. But for now, I think what we'll do, which one of these needs the most attention? Let's try and turn concept into a bit more concrete plan. And then if people want to change what we're doing, they can do that. Okay. That sounds like a plan. So, let's begin, shall we? So, right. What's the best way to do this? So firstly, let's get the hook in. So the hook is my little introductory spiel. Right. So, travelling the woods. Travelling the woods. So, let's think about this. We want it that there's got to be. We need it where the scene is being set effectively, that there's a normality in the travel, and that normality is being disturbed at a set point. So, want to. If we, in the session part, describe their travel, perhaps if the parties start, you get them to describe their travel. My current thought is maybe if the DM kind of basically treats it like you've got to travel from here to here. You know, there are dangerous things in the wood. How, you're asking questions. How do they keep an eye? How do they watch out? And maybe they meet some travellers on the way. Neither one able to really stop and make camps. There's no gathering of safety. Yeah, I like the sound of that. So current thought here is you have the party start. You're you're trying to set normality while also having it be, you're traveling the mist-laden roads at night. Maybe for a random encounter, if they usually have that, you're trying to set normality. Once you've set the normality, you then begin to break it a bit. So, they'll meet this party that's traveling. They're using the setting I design it for. The paths often have these patrols whose job is to keep the road safe from monsters. And maybe there's a bard there who, these will be local people. They'll patrol their local area, so they know the local rhymes, the local poems, the local songs, the local stories. And maybe you can give them some stuff that they can drop in. Um, and then, yeah, you and then you have and then you have and then you have the point where and then yeah, I guess then the turn, if the party keeps traveling, it will happen more naturally. But it'll if the party rest, it kind of I guess the way I describe it would be perhaps that the turn is approaching them as quickly as they are approaching it. So if they stop at any point to rest, they will have in turn um, Effectively, yeah. So if they stop, the turn will hit them, whereas if they proceed forward, they will walk into the turn. And the initial uh, and the initial turn, at least this is how I'm thinking about it, the turn. Whenever the turn occurs, whether they walk into it or it walks into them, is effectively it starts with the mist solidifying. It's harder to see. Effectively, their line of sight is reducing. We're taking away that sense, but it has a height. It's like there is a wall. You can see big creatures. You could see a giant, but you can't see anything that would be human-sized ahead of you. And then you have kind of this height, which then allows you to see the sky. And then you have this. So you're restricting vision, and then yeah, it will just be. Um, so effectively, the mist is blocking their sight. They're not able to see very far ahead of them, which if you run D&D, a large amount of it is always, you know, can you see the danger? Can you perceive the danger? That's the entire thing about perception, is seeing the threat. But now there is effectively this wall of mist, and if you go into the mist, you lose your way. How can you see where you're going? How can you see the path? I didn't realise my mic was off. Thank you for the follow, Rude Together. Thank you for the follow. Whoops. I have been talking for God knows how long without anyone even realising. Well, darn. Okay. Well, I'll quickly catch up on my meandering words before. I was wondering if it was supposed to be sound. Yeah, there was supposed to be sound. Okay, so I'll quickly do the quick run through. So we have, because I don't know when I stopped talking, we put in some channel points, a redemption called Change, which will allow people to get me to move between different projects I'm doing. Currently, there are 5 options we have. There is world building I've been doing. There is a class called the Scion that I've been writing some subclasses for. And then there are 3 horror adventures. One is in kind of the formal writing stage, which is a bit of a pain because I really hate writing the formal introductions. One is me writing basically SCP articles for the different things and room descriptions. And this adventure that we're currently working on is in... It's kind of had the initial thought of the general ideas. I've now got to put the plan together. So currently what we've worked out so far is basically I've quickly run an adventure hook in that the players in the previous adventure, because it's basically 5 adventures that are supposed to be done in sequence. The previous adventure, the players have discovered the secret to defeating an evil hidden beneath the manor that they found in Adventure 1. So Adventure 4 is them travelling back through the woods. These woods are fairly dangerous. The mists are constant in these woods. There are things that hide in the mist. And so the start of the adventure, my thought is, you want to give a sense of normalcy. The sun is setting, it's turning to night. There isn't really a good place for them to camp. So you're asking questions like, how do you travel? You're aware there are monsters. What are you doing to keep an eye out for the monsters considering the mist? Etc, etc, etc. Partway through, they'll meet a party because this area, the different villages have local, effectively wardens who will travel the roads, keeping an eye out for monsters, fighting the monsters before returning to their villages. And maybe you have a bard who knows some of the local stories, poems, sayings or songs. Maybe some of them might be useful to the wider adventure series, maybe some of them might be useful for this adventure, and kind of if the players ask, they can potentially give some information. Effectively, they'll keep moving on, they'll move past the party, they're going in the opposite direction. But during this travelling in the woods where there's normalcy, effectively, what I'm calling the turn, which is the point where it goes from normal to horror, is approaching them. So if they stop to just go, listen, we can't find, nowhere's coming up where we can camp, we're just gonna make camp in the middle of the woods, it will come to them. If they move forward, however, they will move into the turn, and the turn is when the mist gets thicker. So the mist already limits their vision, but kind of when they hit this turn point, the mist gets a lot thicker. Effectively, you can only see a few meters in front of you. It reduces sight, which in D&D can be quite a horrifying thing when you think about how much people rely on their perception score and skill. You know, can I see anything? Can I hear anything? But they're in the woods at night, the mist is thick. The only thing they can see above them are the clouds which are covering the moon. And if they go to sleep, the mist will come to them. If they don't, they will walk into the mist. And the other thing I was suggesting was maybe throw a random encounter. If the players are used to having random encounters thrown at them, kind of throw a random encounter. You know, you're just trying to get players into the mindset of, oh, this is a adventure where all we have to do is walk from one end of the woods to the other. It's just going to be a normal adventure. We fight some random monsters. We try not to get caught out. But when the turn happens is when that changes. If the players go to sleep, they'll wake up, it's night. They've had a long rest. It's been 8 hours, but it is still night. The mist is around them. It is thicker. I need to write some rules for the mist. because the normal mist is like walking into the forest when you talk about the old tales of the Fae and the fairy folk, where you'll get lost, distances won't always be the same, you may be turned around, you may eventually get where you're going, you may not. You need to know how to traverse those mists. This mist, however, is more like Ravenloft, in that if you go through the thick mist where the wall of the zone is, you'll be brought back into the zone. No matter what you do, you are stuck in this zone. But you do not know the size of the zone because your vision is so limited. Then the second turn, the turn when it goes from this is not right to this is dangerous, will occur, which is the clouds will part, because the entire danger of this adventure is if the moon touches trees or plants or rocks or parts of nature, some of them, slowly they'll start to see as the moonlight just goes across whatever it is, a branch will turn into a hand and an arm and another arm, and effectively zombies will appear out of these bits of nature. Effectively, they'll then get hit by the horde. The aim would probably be that you try and make the horde come in such a direction through the mist, and the players don't know how many zombies there are because they cannot see through the mist, and they just keep coming. And your aim is, as a DM, should be to kind of use this to push them towards the village. If they choose to go the other way, that's their choice. You just keep throwing zombies at them. But the other thing you do is, if the party is starting to lose, because this is just to introduce them to the concept, if the party is starting to be overwhelmed, the clouds cover back up the moon. And at that point, the zombies return to being trees, shrubs, bushes, whatever, rocks. And if the players go, okay, I'm going to attack this tree, see what it is. If they cut open the tree is still a tree, the bush is still a bush, the rock is still a rock. You wouldn't be able to tell that under the moonlight it becomes a zombie. And then at this point, it's, if the party continue on the path, they'll reach the village. If they don't continue on the path, if they go a different direction, if they dawdle, if they go something isn't right, what you can do is either on a random timer or just to encourage them, you can let the clouds move again, let the moonlight hit, and let them have a repeat of the descriptor as the moonlight touches these things and they turn into more zombies. But the general aim is, at the point where they are nearing the village, when they're about to hit the village, the light will come again, and behind them will be more zombies. Village, I imagine, being in this wood where horrible things dwell, probably has a wooden, palisade wall, a few stakes around it. So, if the players are able, they might be able to close the gate, kind of keep out that horror for a while. But that will only hold for so long. This is the thing. It's at this point, they're probably going to go into the mindset of this is a zombie survival scenario. They just have to hold out. But that is the point. Eventually, the wall will not provide the protection. Either the gate will give out, though some will get over the wall. There's probably also the fact that there are going to be in the village, there will be some trees, there will be some stuff, and they will in turn turn into creatures, more zombies that will attack them. So eventually they will hide in one of the houses. And then, again, if they're getting overwhelmed, you let the clouds cover up. Because the thing is, they're not meant really to die to the zombie horde. That is not the purpose of the adventure. The zombies are a threat, they are a stake. That's not to say they can never die, but at this point you're doing an introduction, you're trying to get them. It's like the start of a horror game. You don't kill the player at the start of the horror game. The point is you're meant to just introduce them, to get them going, to get them started on the path. Once the actual horror starts, then you can kill them with the zombie horde, because at that point they should know the rules of the zombie horde. In this case, being when the clouds stop covering the moon, zombies will happen, and you need to be prepared. That's my thought on the zombies anyway, because that isn't the only danger in this village. The zombies are just an impetus to keep moving, to keep going. And of course, if the moonlight happens, but the zombies can't sense the people, you'll just have a bunch of zombies milling about the village streets, at which point the game slightly turns. Because effectively, as soon as the zombies notice you, it's a zombie survival scenario. But if you can stealth your way through the zombie horde, you can get from building to building without that being the case. But the general aim is to get them to get into one of the buildings to start the mystery off. Because this is a weird adventure in that I've kind of taken, if you use Van Richten's guide, a bunch of different genres of horror and combine them together. You've got the apocalyptic zombie horror, which is kind of the impetus, it's the timer, it's the thing that never lets you catch your breath. You're constantly having to move, because if you don't, the horde will get you. And its interaction with the moon is having to kind of give you, effectively it's a stopwatch. Whenever the moon gets covered, you've got a stopwatch. Okay, we've got to get all this done in a period of time before we're potentially in another fight. It's then also a investigative horror. It's like your old Call of Cthulhu stories, where it's, you're a bunch of people trying to work out what is happening here. Something has happened here. A story has happened, and you've got to work out what the story is, what the mystery is. Is there a reason the moonlight is turning things into zombies? Is there a reason this village has nobody in it? And then you're also dealing with folk horror, because that's the essence of the mystery. You are an investigator, effectively getting from written accounts, other methods, what happened here. But what happened here was effectively a folk horror story. And the remnants of this folk horror will be what you're tackling with and what you have to deal with in order to win. And then the final essence is slasher horror, because accidentally I made this Silent Hill, and so effectively you have this entity that is this creation of the folk horror that is hunting you constantly. And as you get more clues into the mystery, it gets better at finding you, hunting you, pursuing you. I like horror. If you can't tell, I like horror. I might as well give the preamble for this. So far, of the 5 adventure series, how it basically goes, the first adventure is there is a haunted house, and you are dealing with the haunted house and the horrors within, where you will discover that something underneath the house is about to get out a great evil. So adventure 2 is the journey to the place that will give you the answers. And effectively you end up having some eldritch horror happen to you in the mountains. Then they get to the location where the answers are in adventure 3, which is much more this SCP containment breach kind of horror. There's a clinicalness to it. You can find records. This is the thing that's trying to kill you. This is the rules for keeping it sealed. This is the bureaucracy we have, and it has failed. This adventure is the journey back, because the previous adventure gives them the answer to deal with the threat from adventure 1, which what actually Adventure 5 is. Adventure 5 is dealing with the end boss. But Adventure 4, like Adventure 2, is kind of the journey, but it in itself is its own horror story. So, right. At this point, the mystery starts. So, at this point, I need to work out what buildings are going to be in this village. Obviously, there are going to be houses. You're going to have an inn. You'll have an inn with a bar and stables. Maybe a blacksmith, a chapel, an alchemist. What would you have in a village? Well, you have a market square. Considering I'm imagining this being a little bit swampy area, so as well as some farmland for some farmers, you might also have a fisher. You might have a very small fishmongers. Small fishmongers. Maybe a room for a sheriff. Going back far enough into England, you probably won't have a. Ooh, thank you, gift of the Gabby one for the follow. No, you probably won't have a sheriff. This is too small a village for that. Villages, you'd maybe have a sheriff who'd go out the village. It'd be up to the local villagers. How am I doing today? I'm doing well, thank you. You might have yeah, because basically you just have general houses. And that's probably enough buildings. There's some different places they can go into. Because there'll be people's houses that will probably actually have a decent amount of information. Just enjoying the cool weather. Yeah, it's not too bad over here in the UK at the moment. The sun's out, which is nice. And I will accept the hydrate, thank you. Right, so we have a number of locations. Right. So, let's have a think a second. So, oh yes, there is the tree. The only tree that doesn't turn into a zombie. Now, okay, so fair enough. So, I don't actually know what the weather's like here at the moment, temperature-wise. Oh, no, that's the wrong thing to click. 16 degrees C out in the UK, where I'm in the UK at the moment. Right. Oh, it might be 9 degrees C, actually. I like the cooler temperatures. So, if the players are going to be encountering folk horror, it would make reasonable sense that the inn and stable would be closest to the gate, because that is where travellers would come from, and then they could be stabled up and go to the inn. See, I just struggle with high temperatures is my problem. Yes, I can see, thanks to the actually using the pronouns add-on, which I highly recommend people use. It helps normalize the fact that everyone's using pronouns. Right, so with the in thought, If the players are beginning to follow a folk horror, perhaps one of the in-tenants. One of the in-tenants could be a traveller from outside who is beginning to notice some of the strangeness around the village. As the players run into the inn, they'll find the inn abandoned. Some of the tables may still have bits of food rotting as if they've just been left there for a period of time. The lights are out, all the torches have burnt out. If they investigate upstairs, they may find some different rooms occupied. One of them will be this traveller who's left a journal. The journal will detail his travels. It may also then point him to certain members of the village. The players will have names, they won't have locations. But if they know the houses of the different people, they might be able to then try and work out. You then effectively lead a breadcrumb trail of, you get part of the story from them, and then from there you can get part of the story from these other houses of other people keep their own correspondence or their own diaries. Then okay, yeah, that gets it started. But there won't necessarily be correspondence or records in all the houses. So at that point we can start playing with other things going on, where players potentially, for moments, can effectively see a moment being played out in real time before they get visions of the past. They might hear a conversation, an echo of a conversation. Maybe there might be a ghost at one point. Maybe one of the houses is just effectively, there's no written correspondence, there are just physical clues, and from the physical clues they will have to make out what happened there. If they go to the chapel, they'll be able to find yes, because it was corruption of faith and a corruption of the ritual that started this. So perhaps if they go to the chapel looking for the ritual, they will find the text is missing. If they go to the dodgy farmer's house, though, on a cursory glance they will find the text hidden. They will also find, yes, in the chapel they will find the corrupted version of the text. The farmer's house they'll find the original. For context, the backstory that I came up with during the initial, circumstances is effectively, the people of this land worship the moon. Their belief is very firmly that the light of the moon, as the light of the moon banishes the darkness, so does the goddess give her followers the ability to drive back monsters that hide in the darkness of the night and stay safe. And effectively, they would have had a common village ritual dedicated to this goddess that would have helped keep them safe, protected. Does the ritual actually work? Is it a product of faith? That is up to the individual, and not for this adventure, but the fact of the matter is that someone took this ritual and this faith and corrupted it. And they'll find an old farmer had been in correspondence with a character from Adventure 1 who was also researching eldritch topics that shouldn't be touched with a barge pole. And that in service to this deity, did they corrupt this ritual? And this corrupted ritual in being perpetrated corrupts the village around it and the area around it. Yes, so the corrupted ritual was causing the zombies to appear. He then committed a second ritual, which is why there's one tree that has remained unchanged, because that was what was targeted by the second ritual. Yes. So with the inn, yes, I like this idea. So if they go to the inn first, it will point them in the direction of other places. During this, they have the ticking clock of effectively the slasher that is hunting them, and at the same time, the corruption of the village will mean that they might have to deal with their own fears or memories being made manifest in order to get them to be able to reach the clue safely. Yes, that works. I like that. Thinking, are there any other way? Oh, yeah. So the thing is, when you give something written, while you're dealing with the bias of the narrator, effectively you're having that person's account. Whereas if you give them a room where there is nothing written, there's no weird magic to give you a clue, there is just the evidence before you, you then open yourself up to the bias of the player and the character, which will lead to some interesting results. And I think some of them, to be fair, don't need anything at all. It's a normal house. You couldn't tell anything happened. It's just been abandoned. Yes. I think, yeah, I think that's what we want to go with. Is there any other interesting ways we could approach this? It's a real shame I'm not very good at designing escape rooms, otherwise I'd say that, but the problem is it's very easy to make a bad escape room that's just obnoxious rather than actually useful, so I'm a bit wary of trying that trick if I'm not very good at designing it. This is meant to be done in a couple of sessions. They still also have the issue of the zombie horde, which means we can't really keep it being too long. Any one bit causing it to be slowed down. Just that bit you sit there just going, is this sufficient content? it's the age-old problem with these kind of things where you sit there going, have I made sufficient content? I guess to a degree, there's also the thing of, do I want any backwards and forwardsing, as it were? Do I want any ideas, any clues where effectively I want you? Because obviously one of the big things is travelling within the village between buildings. Question is, do I want you backtrack? Do I want to Metroidvania this, where you basically go to unlock this thing, you need something. In fact, you go, okay, here's an obstacle. You're going to know to come back to this, but only once you have the other prerequisite item. This is the age-old problem with TTRPG design. You're sat there going, you've got to do just enough, but not too much. Because it's not a video game. Is the other thing you have to keep remember. This isn't a video game. The players aren't going to have, for example, a Resident Evil map that goes, this colour means that you have found everything in this location. This colour means you haven't. A lot of it's going to be up to players and dice rolls and the DM. We'll go with these overview of clues for now. What I'll say is I can come back to this later if I find if I feel we're leaning too much in one direction or another direction. I'm going to throw this one to you, chat. You can tell me if this sounds incredibly annoying. What if the diary of the outsider has only the first couple of diary entries within, and attached to it are a few letters of correspondence to give them some places to go to? What if, as they uncover clues by dealing with the different houses and their histories, the diary of the outsider will slowly fill in with more details? And that effectively it will complete once they have enough clues to get a complete picture. They can try and end the adventure early without completing the diary by going, we have roughly enough clues, we think we know what's going on, we're going to do this. But if they do enough things, they'll get a completed diary, which will then give them the entire story. Does that seem a bit too... I don't know if I want to go with video gamey or a bit too over the top, a bit much, or if that sounds like a fairly cool idea, as it kind of gives the players a means of getting a rough idea of progression. I'm interested to see what you all think. I've no problem being told my idea is stupid, by the way. I said it was just a very sudden idea that overcame me of what if use the diary as a tool of narrative progression. Let's put it down as a general idea for now. Hey-oh. What the hell's happened? Give me just a second, everyone. It seems my internet is playing something buggers. Let's... Oh, don't do this to me. Are we back? Are we back? That is the question. Are we returned? Are we back? Are we back to the land of the living? It looks like it. Hello, sorry everyone, that sometimes happens. Unfortunately, my internet is an unstable beast at the best of times, even when all I'm running is a bunch of Google Docs. Hello, hi Netherland. We're just currently turning the initial plan into a... Sorry, the initial ideas of the folk horror adventure into a bit more of a plan. For fuck's sake. Let's see if... Close you, does that help? What is your problem? Let's see if this works. Let's see. Are we back at this time? I'm gonna turn off... Let's just see if turning off a whole load of things. Yeah. I'm just seeing if turning off basically everything, except for Google, works. Not what I really need when I'm trying to do this. I keep getting cut off, so I don't know where I start and where I stop in talking. Google is very clearly needy today, as is OBS. But yes, so we're just turning ideas into a rough outline that then I can go detailed in later. Yeah, so at the moment we've got some, mainly just going like, what are some rough locations I can use? How are we going to lay out the clues? It's a good time, I guess, for other people who have joined to kind of go through. So I'll quickly, I'll just give a summary of what we're doing. So, first of all, there are new channel points called Change, which will allow you to get me to change what I'm currently working on. I've got 5 I've got at the moment, which is a Scion class and subclass. 1 adventure, which is adventure 1 of the 5 adventure series, which is kind of doing the technical writing when you go from a plan that you can run a session on to something you put into a published work. Adventure 3 is me doing some SCP articles. Then there's this, which is Adventure 4. Adventure 4 or 5. So Adventure 1 of the series is a horror manor where things go wrong in the manor. You discover there's an ancient evil below. Adventure 2 is the adventure to the site that will give you the answers. Some eldritch horror happens there. Adventure 3 is where the answers are discovered, but it kind of is also SCP containment breach. There's a lot of information given about each monster and each horror, and it's kind of the rules in interacting with them and where they break the rules. Then this is Adventure 4, which is the return journey. So what we have put into place so far is effectively the players have got the answer. They're going to the place to deliver the answer. As they leave the mountains, enter the woods, there is a mist. And this mist is always there. The mist hides creatures, it hides monsters. It is a bit like fey magic in that this mist, if you walk into it and don't stick to the path, you may find distances aren't always the same. You're turned around, confused. You may end up where you want to go, you might not. And how I'm describing it is effectively as the players start the adventure, as they are walking to the event, the horror, the turn as I'm calling it, the turn is also approaching them. So as the adventure starts, the sun is setting, it is turning to night. The mist is there. How I would want to run it is the start of the adventure is kind of, you're asking players as a DM to kind of, you're trying to lull them into this false sense of security that this is just an adventure in some misty woods where we are going from A to B. You're asking them how are they navigating, how are they keeping an eye out for the monsters they know are there, how are they travelling at night. And they'll meet some other travellers on the way. There are some wandering patrols around the villages who keep an eye out for the monsters. And, there might be a bard in there who might know some local stories, songs, rhymes. Some of these might pertain to the grander adventure. Some of them might pertain to the village where they are going, though they don't know that yet. And that party will pass them by because they're going in the opposite direction. And as the party continue on the path, either they will probably try to rest, make camp, at which point, as the camp long rest progresses, the mist will get thicker and thicker because the turn has come to them. Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. We had some connection issues. So effectively, the turn is coming to them as they rest. The mist is getting thicker. If they continue, they will walk into the mist getting thicker. The interesting thing is the players who do the long rest will know the issue is there first because they will notice that after 8 hours, it is still night. The night hasn't stopped, though they think it has been 8 hours, though they have mechanically been given a long rest. In the earlier bit, to kind of set the scene, maybe you throw a random encounter or two at them to get them into this false sense of security that, it's just a walk through the forest. So that's when the turn starts, as the mist thickens. It goes from a mist that, it is a mist, it obscures some vision, but you've got a good range, to the range gets exceedingly close. Because D&D players love to use perception checks. They love to be able to see the threats. And now you're taking away that sight. The only thing they can see is above. They can see the clouds obscuring the moon. They can see the clouds are moving across the sky at a fairly decent pace. If they try and go into the mist effectively, it's like Ravenloft. You're in a zone. You will always be returned to the zone, even if you are moving away from the zone. But because the mist is so close around you, you cannot see the confines of this zone. You just think you're walking and walking and walking, and eventually they will hopefully head along the path. If they keep walking in a random direction, the mist will put them on the path. And then at a certain point, the turn from this isn't right to this is dangerous will occur, which is when the moonlight hits. When the clouds move out the way, the moonlight hits the trees, the rocks, the bushes, the shrubbery, and the zombies appear. And the aim of the zombies is to corral the players towards the village. If they're beginning to be overwhelmed because they're not moving, we're going to let the clouds cover back up. Let them see the zombies have turned back into plants and stuff. Let them investigate it. And then if they continue to not move, you'll continue to push them because more zombies will come, because they'll never be able to see how many zombies there are because the mists impede their sight. It impedes their sense. The thing about horror in D&D is it's very difficult. The best horror is you take away things. Horror is good because you take away things. You can't see, you can't hear, you don't know what's hunting you. You cannot do a certain thing you would normally do, otherwise it will find you, it will get you. The problem in D&D is players are heroes, they have powers. So what you do is you go, okay, a lot of your powers rely on sight, a lot of your powers require you to have an awareness of the situation. So by taking away your sight, you don't know how many zombies there are. You just see more zombies keep coming. And so it comes to you. The best thing you can do is move. But as I said, if you begin to get overwhelmed, the clouds cover up because this is the introduction. You don't want to kill someone. The first 5 minutes of the horror film, You want to set the ground rules of the horror film to then make it that you can kill them later if they make the wrong decisions. I guess I should look more at horror games than horror films. So at this point, they'll go to the village, and the village is surrounded by a wooden palisade wall. They can close the gate. This is great. It gives them a sense of safety, but that can only hold off so many zombies for so long. And then at that point, the other thing they'll notice is they get a lot more vision in the village. Outside the village, the mist is close. They can't get a sense of scale. In the village, the mist parts away. They can see further. There's still a limit to your vision, but you can see further in the village. You just can't see further past the walls. So eventually, either the zombies will come over the walls or the players will go into the buildings. Whatever happens when they enter the building, the clouds will come across again to give the players time to investigate and think. My thought is, at the moment, that the best place for them to they'll probably go to is the inn, because you would probably have the inn and the stables near the gate, because effectively it's travellers will come, they'll stable the horses, they'll come in for a food, a bite to eat, and maybe sleep the night at the inn and then leave. We have some other buildings we thought might be useful in the village. So the zombies are this apocalyptic threat, this thing that's constantly going to be after you. And from the point you enter the building, effectively, how I would advise a DM is you remove the cloud from the moon to let the zombies come back. When either players are taking too long or on a random timer to make moving between buildings this game, do you wait for the clouds to come back so you can safely cross, or do you try to stealth across or get creative in how you move? Because the zombies don't know where you are when they cannot see you, they cannot smell you, they cannot hear you. The moment one of them knows where you are, though, they'll all start coming. So how you move about the village will be important. And it just adds a layer of complexity and forethought to the game. But to make that randomness, you want a level of randomness of maybe through the ceiling you see a small bit of a gap in the hay, and you can see the moonlight is out again, and you can hear zombies outside the building you're in. But the thought for the inn is when they get to the inn, they'll find some tables with food and drink that has rotted because it has just been left. The torches are burnt out, the fire is burnt out. They'll find some supplies in the back they can use if they want some rations, if they want some drink. But then they can go upstairs because it is an inn. There are travellers here. And what my thought is, one of the travellers will be an outsider who came to the village before the players, when the village was inhabited. Because the other thing is, they cannot see anyone in the village. The village is abandoned. No one is there that they know of. As they go into this village, they'll find a diary. One thought that is going through my head is there are two ways I can approach the diary. The first is, it is a complete diary. It gives the complete story from that person's perspective, along with some letters of correspondence. They will know names but not locations. They still have to investigate. They just know, oh, if they suddenly find a clue with a letter, they'll go, oh, this is the person in the diary. So we'll be able to find some more clues here. Gotta love a forest that's always night. Gotta love that kind of aesthetic. But my other thought is the diary has only the first few entries. Most of the pages are blank, and a few letters of correspondence to get them to know, oh, this is a location if they see the name. This is a place we want to go to. Very nice. The very nice for Gift of Gabby's comment. I like the sound of this forest where it's always night and there's just one road. But this diary, my thought is, if you go with the less pages option, it's as the players go about the village and find things from other people's perspective, the diary will fill more pages in. Now, they might not get the whole picture because they might not find every clue to fill in the diary, but there might come a point where they go, okay, we know enough, we're going to complete the adventure, finish it. But if players want to, they can go to all the locations, find all the things, and fill in the diary and get the most complete picture of this one person's idea. So that's the inn. So far, the chapel is going to have the corrupted version of the rituals texts. If the players search the farmer's house, the farmer who caused all the problems, they will find the original proper version. In the chapel, they may also find some items, maybe for the more holy party members, like some swords blessed to fight the undead, etc., etc. Things that could be just useful in an adventure. Because I'm also thinking if you give them certain items, they can use it then in Adventure 5 to help against the big bad. But also I've got to keep into account they will have also gained magic items in Adventure 1, 2, 3. So you've got to be thinking about that. The alchemist, I'm currently thinking the alchemist hut's probably at the edge of the village. They maybe aren't so much trusted, because, not everyone knows alchemy. You hear bad stories about people misusing alchemy. But as someone who is knowledgeable, as someone who probably was taught by someone who has passed things down by word of mouth, by written text, they will also be able to go. They're also very knowledgeable about the history of the place, and they probably will have spotted some of the things going wrong earlier, and therefore, but not been listened to. But this also means they're one of the people that had correspondence. They're one of the people that knows. And because they're an alchemist, they'll have some potions the players can take. The well currently foul. They might pull up some blood, gore, black ooze with the water when they try to use it. The inn is probably going to be their best place for... The inn will be the best place for resting. I like to have in my adventures what I call the safe room. Partially because I'm aware certain times players... OC might come across something that they didn't think would be an issue but is an issue. So to let them and their character safely step out of the adventure briefly, I like to have a safe. Effectively, it's a room where just nothing bad happens in that room. That room is a safe room. It gives you OC out of game a chance to rest. Knowing that your character isn't going to be interacted by what the rest of the party is doing, it gives you a chance to step away. So I'd probably have the inn has this safe room for this adventure. It has the place you can go to just go, right, OC and IC, we're stopping a second. We are saving effectively here. In this place, time is not progressing for the character. If all the party go in, the timers are not progressing. It's just a moment to stop. The horror isn't stopping and going to stop while we're in there. We know that, but it's a place we can just go to rest. Because, it can be quite... horror stories can be quite heavy. Even if you know that the content isn't necessarily what sets you off, what is your trigger, you may find that you need to stop, take a breather, and that safe room effectively gives you that. My general thought at the moment is I have a few clues, yeah. And as long as they move... Because to be honest, the zombies are generally not... If the players are smart and either use the clouds or they're clever when the moonlight is out in how they traverse the place, the inn can be a perfectly safe location to long rest, effectively. It can be a place where they can stop and the zombies won't. Because the zombies aren't going to enter buildings unless they have a reason to attack the building to get at something inside. So as long as the players are careful, that will be fine. That won't stop the slasher. The slasher horror will go after them everywhere but the safe room. But the more generic horror isn't generally going to go after them as long as they are careful and smart about their actions. So I have some general unassigned clues. These are things I'm going to have to think about how I want to place them in the buildings. We won't get to that today, the exactness of the clues, but it gives me a rough idea what I'm doing. My general thought is that some of them will have written down. They'll have diaries, they'll have correspondence with the outsider and each other. You know, that there will be letters that players can read. There will be journals. There will be quick little notes written on the side of a countertop that will be able to give them some clues of what's going on. One of the places might have a ghost of a former resident trapped in a nightmare, either reliving a moment or something that happened. And so how the players attach that will be how they get the information in that scenario. They might hear, when they enter a room, the echo of a conversation, or suddenly find themselves transported back to watch a moment of the past occur. They won't have the context for the conversation or for the moment. They'll just see or hear the moment. And that will be the clue then that they have to piece together with the rest of it. And then what I want to do is also have a room where there is no written word. There is no magical memory or sound. There is just evidence of the room itself. Because with written, there is a bias. There's the biasy of the text of whoever wrote it. With a memory or a moment, there is the bias of you in the moment seeing the thing, but you don't have the context of the before or after. When you're just given a room full of clues, it's entirely up to the biasy of the player and the character how they interpret the clues put before them. But that's fine, because they don't need the perfect answer to solve the mystery. And I think that'd be interesting. There might be other clues I come up with at the moment. There's also a timer, as well as the slasher, for the player's character's own fears and memories to come in that they have to interact with to deal with problems that will probably, once dealt with, give them some more clues in that building or room that they are in. I'm kind of liking the idea now that the diary might give knowledge over time. While it's a little bit video gamey, at the same time, I think it works as a way to effectively get players to interact with different bits, to get other... because it's only giving the viewpoint of the outsider. It's not giving the viewpoint of the people in the village. So they still need the other bits to get the full context. But effectively, it means that they will learn the story as they investigate with the outsider. And they can choose to go in a different route to the outsider, but what it means is they'll get later journal entries or earlier journal entries, but not in a linear order, the knowledge. That is my thought. Yeah, crime scene situation for visual clues. And then at the end, yeah. So at the moment, I'm just thinking about how to distribute different bits between people. So imagine like the fishmongers, I think, would be empty. There won't be any fish there. There's not even any rotting fish, because with all the zombies, they haven't been able to go out to get any fish. They're probably someone who isn't in correspondence with the outsider, because they're on the favour of the farmer. They're in favour with the farmer because they're effectively going, listen, this person is giving us a solution to the problem. We've got to trust them. trying to work out how would because I've got some key buildings of key things you may find in a village. I'm trying to think how the blacksmith feel. Or is the blacksmith just going to be a person who's very neutral? They're not super with the farmer. They're not dealing with the outside or anything. They're just concerned. They're just a concerned citizen who's just hoping that if they just keep to the ways they always have, things will sort themselves out. Yeah, I think that's a perfectly reasonable idea. I think no on that one with the fire potions. My main thought is, like, it's like they are two separate things. If you chop up a tree when the clouds are covering the moonlight, or if you went in daytime, should daytime ever be a thing that exists in this situation? The tree is a tree. Likewise, the zombie is a person. It has the organs of a person. It acts like a person. It looks like a person that's undead. It's a really weird transformation that no one can quite get what's happening. But I'm happy to leave that one entirely unexplained, because you don't need to unexplain. You do not need to explain it. It just is. I think if I try to come up with an answer for it, it will just disappoint or frustrate. What I might do is just tinker with the zombie stat block a bit. Where we go like they have slightly less hit points than a regular zombie. Just because, as I said, you really don't want them. Oh, self-care check. I will hydrate. I don't need any meds at the moment, but if you have any meds that you need to take, be sure to take them. Everyone just have a drink. If you need a bio break, if you need something to eat, a snack, feel free to. And yeah, be sure to self-care, everybody. Yeah, I could use the old minion rules of 4E, for those who don't know 4E, to kind of give that heroic vibe. Made it a special called minions. Minions use a standard stat block of an enemy, but their hit points are 1. Which basically means any attack, if it hit, would kill a zombie. I'm not sure I want to go down that route though. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, no. If we keep zombies at a regular stat block, because you want a few hits to take them down. because that makes the numbers even more terrifying if you can't just kill a zombie in a single hit. You could kill them in a single hit if, like, you know, you're bringing magical gear and you're spending spell slots, or like you're being a paladin, you're using up your limited use smites. Whereas everyone else kind of like, maybe we should back up. Maybe we should get away from the zombies. So you're just trying to get players. You're trying to get the players to think about the scenario and how they're going to go about sorting it. I mean, I did look at the other. I'd probably want to run this a couple of times just to see, because if you go to Van Richten's, there are some alternate zombie stat blocks. Zombies. Because you have the swarm of zombie limbs, which could be fun. You have the zombie clot, which is basically this giant monster where they all turn into one giant thing, which is... I don't think we want to go down that vibe. While it's cool, I think it's more horrifying to seeing 10 zombies just walking at you than them forming a conglomeration of one creature that you just comes at you. Like, if I was doing a proper zombie apocalypse scenario, this would be kind of cool. But as I said, they're kind of... I wouldn't want that walking through the centre of the village. I might go, for example, if they're trying to break down the wall or the gate, they might form this briefly before returning to standard zombie stat blocks. But I wouldn't generally have this going against the players. And then you have the plague spreader, which is basically... It is, if you want to go down the line of, here's a load of poison damage, if you die to it, you become a zombie. Which, again, I'm not sure I want to go down. This isn't really a zombie plague. This is just... There is a curse here that is making zombies happen. Again, I think these are very good zombie stat blocks if you want to go down the very heavy zombie apocalypse. You know, you're in a wall, there's a load of NPC people with you, you're manning the wall, you're fighting off the zombie horde, one of the NPCs go down, oh no, it's now a zombie. A big thing's attacking, the players have to go fight it. It's, no, the way I'm looking at it is the zombies are not villagers. The villagers had something much more horrible happen, and that they've all been subsumed into the tree in the centre of the village, the hangman's tree. Instead, the zombies just have appeared via the curse. Effectively, the curse corrupts nature into zombies as a kind of manifestation of a twisted form to bring fear and death to the people. But the people were safe behind the wall. Yeah, like when the players see the tree, my current thought is, if they see the tree, they just see a giant tree, an incredibly thick trunk. Like it is one of those super wide trees. And oh so many branches. And maybe when the moonlight hits it, if it hits it at a right angle and the player's looking at it, they might see human faces, human arms, like coming out of the bark, like reaching out for help. And then the player blinks and they just see a tree again. I was thinking less scream. What they might hear is just, children's songs or little rhymes coming from around it. You can't tell it's coming from the tree, it's just coming from that area. It's just when the players go under the farmer's cabin and they head down into the basement, then down into the earth, and they find that the ritual area is basically the ceiling of the ritual area is the roots of the tree reaching down towards them. And when they deal with the threat that the tree literally sets ablaze, and they'll see the spirits of the villagers leaving the tree into the night sky. Which, depending on how long the players take, how many long rests they take, may turn to daytime, maybe still nighttime. I like horror. I am very good at coming up with weird fucking concepts. But yes, that's my thought. Right. What I'm going to do, because we've been going for a few hours now, is what we're going to do is we'll do break. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to this, do this in my own time, just trying to write some stuff. I might make progress on this adventure because I'm writing kind of multiple adventures at once. I might not make progress. If I don't make progress, we'll just continue this later. What we're going to do for now, though, because I said I would, is we're going to take hour and a half break. Sometime between 4 and 5, we'll start a second stream, but that will be video games. I'll probably we might do some Final Fantasy 14, just some chill, relaxing Final Fantasy for a couple of hours. But for now, we are going to finish there for today. For those of you who are newly following, I am a variety streamer. I tend to do Final Fantasy 14, strategy games like Stellaris, horror games, and then games design streams where we work on writing adventures, world building, or more mechanical design like classes, races, backgrounds. Yeah, I do a variety of things. So, yeah, for now, we are going to finish. We are going to go on a break. And we will be back soon. I will, however, do a quick raid to share some love with the community. Ooh. What are you doing? Just chatting. Let me just see what this person's doing. I need to be able to actually see what they're doing, though, to rate them. Shelley Von Miller, they were doing writing last time I checked. Yes, it looks like it. So let's go give them a raid and give people something to watch. And we'll be back later. As I said, between 4 and 5, we'll be back with some video games. See you.